Okay. All right, I think we can get started. I think most of the people are on now. All right, once again, welcome everyone to more information about advanced placement classes at Branham High School. I am Nikita Shah. I'm one of the assistant principals, and I coordinate all the advanced placement classes and the testing at Branham High School. With me, I have Miss Morella, and she is one of our counselors who helps me with all of this extensive work that goes in coordinating these classes for your students. And we also have a panel of students and teachers who I will introduce as we go further along in the webinar. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so the agenda for today was I already welcomed you guys. Why are we going to have students take these tests? What offerings does Branham have at different grade levels? What are some characteristics that your students should develop in order to be successful in these rigorous classes? And then we're also going to talk about accommodations if your students need them, information sessions by the teachers. And then our teacher panel will give you a little bit of information about their department. And then we'll have Q&A at the end. All of this information will be available to you on our website. I will push that out using the same Parent Square email that you got this information from. And the slideshow is going to be there. The recording of this webinar will be there. And so you don't need to take any notes. You'll have access to contact information for all of us. So you'll be able to have all of that posted soon. So let's get started.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I am Danielle Morella. I'm one of the school counselors. Just some logistics for tonight. Because we are doing a Zoom webinar, that doesn't allow us to interact with you all on the other side. We actually can't even see you. And so we want to make sure that we get all of your questions answered. And so throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, what you want to do is make sure that you are putting all your questions in the Q&A box. And either myself or Ms. Shaw or our teachers or students will answer your questions as they come through. I would suggest maybe holding on to your questions just to make sure that they don't answer them throughout the presentation. But if you do have any, you want to make sure you put them in the Q&A. The chat does not work during a webinar, and neither does raise your hand. And you can't unmute yourself to ask a question because we are in this type of a system. So just wanted to put that out there before we got started. So some of the benefits of taking an AP course, right, is that students get exposed to college level curriculum. It gives them a chance to see what a college class would be like before actually being in college. So where they would still have the support of their high school teachers, but seeing the rigorous of the content, the exams, the level of work that needs to be done outside of the class, it gives them that firsthand experience early on. In addition, usually the best part about it is that if the students take the AP exam, which our expectation at Branham is that if your student is going to take the AP class, then they should be taking the AP exam, which is always going to be the first 2 weeks of May. And in those exams, if your student scores a 3, 4, or a 5, many of our colleges are going to give college credit. Now, the colleges are going to vary. None of them do it exactly the same. So you'd have to look to see the course that you're taking, what score would you have to get, and would they give you subject credit? Would they give you elective credit? And again, that's going to vary depending on the different colleges and the systems that we have. If they don't give subject credit, many of them will give at least elective credit. So your students would be entering college with college credit. One of the benefits to that is that then they actually get to register earlier for classes because they will have credits already going in. And then one of the other pieces is it helps on their GPA as well. So they get that grade bump. So many times students will ask, how did I get above that 4.0? It's by taking these AP exams. So when they do that, they actually get one extra bump. So normally if a student got an A in an on-level class, that would be numerically a 4. In an AP class, if they get an A, it's actually a 5. And so that's how they can get above that 4.0.
Next.
And then again, it just helps them to see what other courses they might want to take. One of the pieces I want to make clear, and we make this clear when we meet with each student individually during programming, students really should take AP courses and the courses they enjoy. So if they do not like a certain subject, don't take an AP in that subject area. Really, these courses are to dive even deeper into the content. So they should be doing that in the subjects that they actually enjoy doing extra reading or extra writing in versus doing something that they don't. We recommend students to take anywhere between 2 to 3. Students will take 4 to 5, and that is they have that option. We will not tell them no, but we do have a conversation about having a realistic schedule. And with that, you want to make sure, and I tell all of my students, if you cannot do something for fun that is not school related for at least an hour a night, your load is too heavy. So we want them to make sure they still have time to relax, be students, and have fun every night versus just doing homework from the time they get home to the time they go to bed. They will burn out very quickly. So one of the options that they have in their 10th grade year is to take AP World History. For most students, that's going to be the very first AP that they're going to be able to take. Ms. McInnes can speak about this a little bit later in the presentation. One of the other options that your students might have for AP as a 10th grader is if they're in advanced math, then they might be going into, say, AP Calculus, but that's very rare. So usually the first AP your students are going to see is that AP World History. If they're taking APs this year, so it's very, very rare that we would have a student in that. It doesn't count towards their GPA for CSU and UCs. They don't start counting them until 10th grade. So as you can see in 11th grade and 12th grade, more options kind of open up for your students. That's where they can take APs in almost every single subject area. Depending on what level they're at, then they can look to see what they might want to take. Sometimes we will have juniors that want to take AP Bio or AP Chemistry. They do have to take that concurrently with physics. So physics has to be taken in that junior year. So they can still take another AP, but it has to be concurrent. Same thing with AP Environmental Science as well. So you really just want to have your students look to see what are their options, what are they interested in, and how many APs can they handle that would be a realistic schedule. And then again, in 12th grade, you'll see again, that list is pretty large, that students have lots of options that they can take in that last year as well. One of the things, if you are a student or your student's going to be a senior, they really need to factor in that they're going to have college applications as well in their senior year. So really, how many APs are they wanting to take, along with needing to make sure that they can manage the application season that happens in the fall for students that are applying to four-year colleges. So making sure, I would almost count that college application season as one additional class to their load. And so just really looking to see how many should they take in that last year. So some ways that your student can be successful in their AP courses is really staying organized. I always suggest to students, they need to use some kind of a planner. So whether that is a handbook planner, an old school paper planner, or it is, with all the new techie and tools on their phones, but using something that they are writing down these assignments. With these AP courses, there are a lot more assignments that are being asked of your students to do outside of the class versus an on-level class. So being able to organize that, having a system to be able to write it down is going to be really important. One other thing would be is to make sure that they can manage their time efficiently. So one of the other things would be is to really have them map out their schedule. See exactly what do they have every single day. Are they doing sports? Are they working? Are they in extracurriculars? Are they volunteering? Having them write all that out. What's the length of time that they're doing it? And so they can really see for a week base, how much time do they actually have to dedicate to these AP courses? And there's lots of different tools that are online. It's really just finding a system that works best for the student. Being able to think critically about the content, really with these AP courses, they're going to dive deeper into that content area. So being able to, do things independently, that they're not waiting for the teachers. A lot of the times it's going to be expected that they have read that chapter or 2 chapters before coming to class. What the teachers don't want in these AP classes is that your student hasn't done that part, because what they're going to do is then give the lecture. They're not going to go back through the content that they expected the students to do the night before. So doing some of this independently is going to be really important. And so having your students kind of work on that improvement of that skill is going to be valuable to the AP classes. And then asking their teacher if they're confused. Usually every time when I talk to a student that's in an AP class and they're struggling, my first question to them is, have you talked to your teacher? Have you asked them for help? Have you gone to tutorial? Those are always the questions we're going to ask. And that's with any class, really, not even just the APs, even the on levels. Your student, the first person they should be going to when they need help and support is their teacher. So if they are not doing that, if you can help encourage that at home, that would be awesome. And then the last piece for me is, how can you as a parent or a guardian help your students be successful in their classes? So reiterating, having a system to help them stay organized. So having your students show you, what are they using? Are they using a planner? Are they using their phone? What are they using to stay organized with their lessons and with the assignments that need to be done? And again, managing their time. So every Sunday, maybe you're sitting down with your student at the table and asking them, where are they going to go for tutorial? Checking their grades maybe every Sunday to see where they at, especially in all of their courses, but especially with the AP classes. If you have family dinner, ask them what they're learning. What did they do today in their classes? Can they tell you about the subject area that they learned? That helps them to retain that information that they're learning in the class. And again, if your student's having difficulty, these are AP courses, so they should be challenged, but it should be a challenge that they can still overcome. So if it is something that it is so difficult, they've talked to their teacher, they're getting the help, then come and see us as counselors and let's have a conversation. But they should be challenged. It should be a little bit difficult for them. And then again, if your student is struggling, make sure that they have gone to their teacher, that they've asked for help. And then if they have done that and you're not seeing any kind of improvement, then that's where you might want to ask the teacher to have a parent meeting, so then you can work together as a team to just best help support your student.
All right. So that was great information. Thank you, Ms. Morella. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about what you need to do about the logistics of taking these tests. So number one, I'm going to talk about students who need accommodations. So if your student has an IEP or a 504 plan, College Board needs documentation to approve of these accommodations. And so what I do is I reach out, but you're always welcome to reach out as well and let me know that your child is taking an AP class, and I submit documentation to the College Board as early as September and October, because every time you do that, it takes about 7 to 8 weeks for College Board to go through the review process. Sometimes they ask for more documentation, and then you as a parent will be responsible for giving me that documentation so I can submit it again or resubmit it in some cases. What about the AP exam itself? It's usually in May. It's the same worldwide. The dates are the same for wherever the AP exams are being administered. This year, the cost was $98 per exam, and it usually changes by $1 or $2 in order to keep up with the inflation and the cost of living. And these dates are set by the College Board. Each exam is about 3 to 4 hours. It depends on what exam your child is taking. There are essays and then multiple choice portions to the test. And then if you are somebody who is, if the fee is a barrier to your child taking the AP classes, we have scholarships available. So please contact either your teacher or any adult on campus, and we'd be happy to lead you through the process of the scholarship. Next year, I know it seems really early, but next year, the fees and registration will be due by November, because College Board puts everything in play by November. We have to order all these tests and have it all in place by the time November, by mid-November. And so if you decide later to take these tests, then there's a late fee associated with it. This year it was $40. We don't know what it's going to be next year. Okay, so if you are planning, all of this information will also be available to your students in their AP classes once they start school. But what you do is you go to collegeboard.com, register as a parent or a student, and then AP classes. So AP Central is where you want to be. There's a lot of information on there, as well as on our website, that I'm going to be pushing out later this week or early next week about course descriptions, what to expect in a class that you take, exams, exam dates. How does your student earn college credit and stand out by taking taking AP classes during the admission process? We also have our teachers who are going to be hosting informational sessions. So that email already went out to the community. But if you have, if you didn't get that email, or if you need information about that, have your child reach out to Ms. Morella, myself, or any of the teachers you're going to hear from today, and we're happy to help you out. The informational sessions are usually at lunchtime. Some teachers also host it during tutorials. The schedule, it's happening all during the month of March, so I will be posting those regularly every Monday, so the students can be aware of what's coming up. Your 4-year plan, review that with your counselors, or review that with your child at home. And then it will, your students will have questions. So those questions will be answered by the teachers during that session. And then they will talk to their counselors to turn in the AP contract by May of this year. All right, so I'm really excited to welcome our student panel. And we're going to start hearing from them in about a minute. So I'm going to ask all our teachers to go off screen so we can only highlight our awesome students. And then if the students could turn on their cameras, we're going to get started with Colin first. Hi, Colin. Did he drop off? All right, we'll wait for him to get back on. All right, we're gonna go next with Angela. Angela, since you're online, you're next. Welcome, thank you for being here.
Of course.
So Angela's just gonna go through a quick recount of her experience as a student who has taken AP classes, along with a lot of other things that she does on campus.
Okay. Hello. I'm a senior at Branham currently, and right now I'm taking 4 AP classes. I think I've had a really good experience with the APs. A lot of our teachers were extremely helpful. I try my best to maintain really good relationships with some of the teachers, attend tutorials, and make sure to ask questions before and after classes as well. And I think I always kept a to-do list in my notes app, so that was how I kept track of everything. What I usually did was, before the next day, like at night, the day before, I would like plan out everything that I would have to do the next day, homework wise or like extracurricular wise. And then I would, like, through the rest of the following day, I would just like mark everything that I was completing like as I went. So that's how I kept track of my work. I played tennis for all 4 years outside, along with my APs. And I also did track for 2 years. and then a couple outside extracurriculars as well. And it was a bit difficult to balance the APs along with extracurriculars, but I think if you one second, I'm gonna let my dog out.
Colin, since you're back, you're going to be next, by the way.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. But yeah, I think if you just put a lot of work and also make sure that like alongside with work, you kind of let off some steam while hanging out with friends or doing other hobbies that you enjoy, I think it's very doable. And so I highly encourage students to take AP classes, especially ones that they know they're going to really enjoy and have fun learning about. And yeah. Is there anything else I should cover?
No, that was perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
And then Angela's going to stay around to answer any questions that you may have from that she can answer. And we're going to go to Colin next. Welcome back, Colin.
All right. So sorry. My computer decided to crash at the worst time. My name is Colin. I'm a junior. Currently, I'm taking AP language and composition as well as AP US history. So this is my first year taking AP since I decided not to take AP world history. But I found it to be such a positive experience. So first off, just for advice, I guess, it's such a positive experience as in you're surrounded by a lot of driven students that also decide to take APs with you, and a lot of dedicated teachers. They're there to support you, and they want you to succeed as well. So just make sure that you're asking a lot of questions, meeting after class, meeting a tutorial, as well as even asking your classmates as well for help. They're also very driven, just like you, and they want to see you succeed as well. I've also been involved in extracurriculars. So sometimes, since it's my first year doing APs, I still find myself trying to figure out time management. But overall, it's definitely doable. I'm involved in my third year playing volleyball, as well as involved in ASB and many other clubs on campus. But I would say it takes me no more than an hour to do maybe AP homework in general. It's very doable. If you're just dedicated as well, if you're taking APs that you're interested in, you're involved in the topics, you're not getting bored of the topics, you're taking classes that you're interested in, and you're interested. So you're not, you want to do the work, you want to learn more, especially if you're taking these AP classes. So yes, it's very doable. Make sure that you try to stay organized as possible, figure out ways that work for you. I know personally sticky notes work as well for me and planners. And, it takes some figuring out sometimes. But it definitely helps once you figure it out and use a routine. Stay as organized as you can, ask lots of questions, try to figure out time management as well. And students and parents as well working that together, because, sometimes parents know more about time management than students do. But yeah, definitely take time to blow off steam, like Angela said, with friends. Don't overwork yourself. Find time to do extracurriculars and have fun and experience high school as well, and with friends. But it's definitely doable. I encourage all of you, if you're interested in doing APs, definitely do them and check them out because I know I've had such a positive experience with them. So yeah.
Thanks, Colin.
Yes.
All right. Max, you're up.
Hello. I'm a senior. You guys can hear me, I assume.
Yes.
I'm a senior at Branham, and I would really strongly encourage taking AP classes if you're planning on going to college. Like Colin said, in all of the AP classes that I've taken, there's been such an encouraging environment. Everyone's motivated to learn and succeed. And like the teachers, they're so willing to help you that everyone wants you to succeed. Yeah, and like the core classes that you have to take anyway, I would really, like, you could just take the AP class because you have to take it anyway, and you can get college credit in the process. There is definitely an apprehension that people have towards taking AP classes, and I'm not going to say that the workload is light, but if you put in the work, it's really manageable. You can get ahead in college, and you can delve deeper into the material and get like you can enjoy the class more, in my opinion. and the stakes are lower than college. So you can get a taste of the college level work in a supportive environment. So I would really recommend taking AP classes, and I would really say go for it.
Thank you, Max. And then Tara, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Tara, and I'm a senior at Branham. And my biggest piece of advice regarding AP classes is definitely taking it in a gradual pattern. So, like, what I found was that it really helped for the amount of like hard classes that I took every year to increase incrementally. So, like freshman year, I had IM3 STEM, which is just like an elevated version of IM3. And then sophomore year, I took 2 APs. And so then that like doubled my junior year. So, like, if you're taking 1 AP sophomore year, then I would recommend going up to 2 to 3. Like, there's a lot of people who decide not to take WAP sophomore year, and then all of a sudden they take like 4 or 5 APs their junior year, and it's like a lot. So I think that my biggest piece of advice is definitely to go like gradually. So like every year take a little bit more APs than you did the year before, because it will really help you like learn what it's like to be in an AP class. And also another thing is probably that every AP is different. So like there's certain APs that are more like doable than other APs. And I feel like it's really important to know that it's not always about how many you're taking, but what type you're taking and what your personal strengths are.
I love that. Yes.
So like it always depends on like which class it is. And I think I would recommend if like after you take, you know, your first AP and you're preparing for your next year's course load, if you're taking something like calc, definitely talk to like your friends and upperclassmen friends about their experience in it, and maybe see like how you could maybe prepare yourself a little bit over summer with something like pre-calc skills or like things like that. There's always people on campus to support you so that you can be successful in your AP classes, and it's definitely a good idea to take them if you want to prepare for college.
Perfect. All right, Tara, thank you so much. So that was our student panel. Luigi was on earlier. I'm not sure if he has, he's having technical issues, but if he comes back, we'll hear from him as well. I'm going.
Ms. Shaw, he is actually here. He just put in the chat.
Oh, okay. All right, Luigi, can you hear us? Oh.
Oh, maybe his microphone isn't working.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next session, next part of our presentation, and wait for Luigi. And I'm going to introduce our teacher panel now. If you guys could turn on your cameras, we have Miss Molina representing our world language department, Miss Brady from the math department, Miss Follett from our English department. Ms. McKennis is going to be talking about social science and AP psychology, and Mr. Duran Holton is our amazing art teacher, and Mr. Turner is going to be answering questions about computer science.
I'll also answer questions about math.
Okay, perfect. All
and
right.
I'm also here for science, Nikita.
Oh, Mr. Kalman, I'm sorry. Mr. Kalman is going to be answering questions about science. All right, I'm going to get started with Ms. Molina, and then Mr. Kalman, you can go in next.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, great.
Yes.
So currently we offer Spanish language and cultures, French, Mandarin, and Spanish literature. However, all of these, with the caveat that we must have enough enrollees to fill a full class. So if you're interested in these classes, you've got to make sure that you enroll. You ask your counselor to enroll you in those, because that's how we plan for next year. So we don't have enough enrollees, and we cannot have a class. With me, I'm the Spanish AP teacher for Spanish. I can tell you more about AP Spanish, but in general, all of these language courses are 100% in Spanish. Sorry, in the target language, whether it be Mandarin, French, or Spanish. These classes, you're expected to be performing about a third semester at university level. So it's a lot of the academic language that we're not seeing in the lower levels really comes together here. And you are reading and comparing and analyzing multiple sources at one time. And they may be anything from a video to a graph to a piece of literature. So it's really synthesizing all of the skills that you've been preparing for in 4 years. We do have students that go from 3 to AP, 4 to AP, and native Spanish speakers to AP. With Mandarin and French, they may go from 3 to AP. In French, they might go from 4 to AP. So depending on your background as well, if you're a native speaker, you may start out at the higher level and you may be done sooner. But one of the greatest benefits of all, besides, yay, you're fluent because you have 4 years of that language, is that if you pass 3.0 in the target language courses and 2.0 in your English language courses, you are considered bilingual. You also have to pass your state test. If you're considered bilingual, so you would get a seal of biliteracy and a medal to wear on graduation day. And that's one of the proudest moments for all of us to see our students walk down with that medal. What else did I want to say? I know I'm forgetting something. Oh gosh.
Maybe it will come up when the questions come
Yes.
up. Thank you, Ms. Molina.
There was one more thing, but oh yes, I remember. So it also puts you that much closer to a minor in when you go off to college, that much closer to a double major. And a lot of colleges require that you take additional language once you get there. And I've had parents, I run into them or email me or call me and say, oh my goodness, my student was able to test out that whole entire year that is required. So some schools require an additional year, some colleges. So you may be ahead of that. So that was the last thing I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. We are going to go with math next.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Hi, I'm Mr. Turner. So there are 3 AP courses offered. There's AP Calculus, it's split into A, B, and BC. Typically, students take this after taking IM3 STEM or IM4. It requires some pre-calculus, though, to jump from IM3 STEM onto it, but most students can just take something, not even a formal course, just take something over the summer to brush up on their pre-calculus skills and jump into it. They're typically also taught with the same teacher. So a lot of times the teacher that teaches their AB will become their BC teacher and they'll follow with them, which is a nice little bonus for that. We also have AP Statistics. AP Statistics can be taken after IM3. A lot of students take it their junior or senior year. Most majors require statistics, and it's a great way to get some practice into that, either to avoid having to take it in college or to have that kind of setup so that you succeed in your first math class in college. And I think that's it for math. Did I miss any courses?
No.
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Turner. We'll go with Ms. Follett next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Hi, my name is Chelsea Follett, and I am an English teacher at Branham High School. So I'm going to speak kind of briefly about the 2 AP classes that we have in our department. So at every grade level, there's what we call an on-level class, and that on-level class is kind of the basic English class for freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. They're really great classes, but we often have students that want to challenge themselves. And so sophomore year, we start offering something called Honors English 2 or Sophomore Honors. It's a really great class. It's a bit more challenging and rigorous than the regular on-level classes. A lot of times students take that honors class because they want to prepare themselves for the 2 AP classes that are available their junior year and their senior year. So I teach what is called AP Lang for juniors, and then there's another course called AP Literature for seniors. A couple things to know about both of those classes is that Both of those AP classes move pretty quickly, so they're quite rigorous. The curriculum is more in line with a college curriculum than a traditional high school curriculum, so they're very rigorous. They're pretty fast paced. There is a lot of homework. One of the things that's really important for students to know that sign up for AP Lang or AP Literature is that in neither of the courses do teachers allow late work. And so, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the most kind of important reason is that students, we're kind of moving so quickly through the curriculum, it doesn't make sense for students to be turning in old work from a week or two ago when there's always new work to be done. So that can be challenging. Another kind of challenging part of the course is that students are required to write what we call cold essays or timed essays. And those essays are essentially when students are given a prompt and they have to answer that prompt and write an essay for that prompt in the moment. That would be really different from an on-level class where students have a week or at least a day to think about how they want to answer an essay prompt. So that would be a huge difference between an on-level course and an AP course. And of course, as the admin has kind of presented earlier, a huge reason why students love these AP classes is because if you pass the exam with a 3, 4, or 5, often universities will give students college credit for passing those classes. So there's the 2 different AP courses. AP Lang is the one that I teach. That course is just for juniors. It is all nonfiction, so we focus a lot on op-eds, speeches, essays, and we talk a lot about current events, current affairs in that class. We all primarily focus on rhetorical analysis, which means we study rhetoric and how people use rhetoric to be convincing and persuasive. AP Literature is the class, it's the one that I don't teach, that's for seniors, and that course focuses all on fiction. So they read a lot of prose, they read a lot of poetry, they read a lot of drama. That course is focused then on literary analysis as opposed to rhetorical analysis. That class definitely has more reading because you're reading a lot more novels and longer pieces of text. So it certainly has a lot more reading. Both of the courses, students usually say that they feel very happy that they took those courses, but again, they are very rigorous and you know, we hope that students have taken English 2 honors before they sign up for the AP classes, but we've had some really, really successful students in our classes that came from an on-level background, and that's doable and absolutely okay as well. So that's it. If you have any questions, I'm really easy to find. My email is on the Branham webpage, and I'd be more than happy to answer some more questions later.
Thank you. And that, you know, reading and analysis really leads us into social science as well. So Ms. McInnes.
Hi, my name is Sarah McInnes, and I teach AP World History, the 10th grade AP course for social science, but I will also be speaking on behalf of the other 3 courses that we have. So in total for the social science department, we have 4 AP courses. They begin in sophomore year with AP World History, which is the AP level for the on-level world history classes that students are required to take their sophomore year. In junior year, we have an on-level US history and an AP level US history. And then senior year, we have AP government, which is, again, the AP equivalent to the on-level government class. And we have senior priority for AP psychology, although sometimes, including this year, we do have some juniors that are able to get into the AP psychology class. In our courses, very similar to English, there's a lot of writing in social science. Ms. Follett was talking about the timed essays. We have more timed essays than I think the teachers want or the students want in our course. Which again is getting a prompt about a historical topic or trend and writing a 5-paragraph essay in 40 minutes to an hour. That's very heavy in both the AP World and AP US course. There are free response questions in both government and AP psychology as well, but they take a little bit of a different form, whether that's through like concept application or studying court cases. They're a little bit different than the typical 5-paragraph essays that you're seeing in the earlier courses in AP World and AP Gov. But for the most part, our courses are centered around writing and critical thinking. There's a lot of source analysis. And there's a lot of outside reading in the course. For my course specifically, AP World History, we have 10th graders going through hundreds of years of history in 30 weeks. We don't have time for straggling as much as we all want to kind of sit through and soak in all of these fun and cool and interesting pieces of history. We go through it very, very rapidly. And part of that is on the students to do the reading at home, to get some of that background content knowledge so that we can really apply the skills that are being tested on the exams in class. So in all 4 of those courses, there is a lot of outside reading to make sure that we can be practicing the skills necessary for the exam in class. There's probably more, but I can always answer questions in the Q&A. And again, my email is on the website as well if you have further questions.
Thank you. So switching gears a little bit, we'll go into art. So Mr. Duran Holton will be able to give you a little bit more information how non-STEM and reading or analysis classes work.
Yes, hello. I am Kylo Duran Holton. I am the AP art teacher, 2D art teacher as well. We have 3 choices for AP art for students to take. There is AP 2D art and design, AP 3D art and design, and AP 2D drawing. The courses are interesting and compared to other AP classes. There is no test. Students turn in a portfolio in May on a sustained investigation topic. So all 3 classes work pretty much the same, just kind of changing the medium they're working in. But the sustained investigation topic is essentially a topic that guides all the artwork that they make for the year. The portfolio is usually around 10 art pieces, and then they document their process as well. The trickiest part for the AP portfolio is time management. It can be one of the easiest APs because you are given the rubric ahead of time. The students know exactly what's expected of them if they read the rubric. So you should kind of know how well you'll do before you even submit for a portfolio. But again, it can be challenging because for a lot of students, 10 art pieces around one topic is a lot to make while having 5 to 6 other classes. That's the general information about the AP art classes. Please let me know if you have any questions. I can answer them in Q&A or
Perfect.
email me. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to Mr. Turner for computer science information.
Hello again. So CTE only has one AP, that's AP Computer Science A. It is a programming-based class, so it's entirely about learning one programming language. So in that way, it is similar to the world languages where you're focusing on syntax, you're learning, except for there's no culture involved, and you're learning about how to write it. No prior programming experience is needed. Obviously, it's a more difficult course if you don't have it. If you're interested in computer science, I highly recommend you take computer science principles first. Otherwise, just I would say maybe 30 to 40% of my students don't have any prior knowledge to programming before entering it. It is a project-based class, so it's very different. Your workload will drastically shift day to day. If you manage your stuff on time and you're able to sustain work on something over a long period of time, then it shouldn't be a big issue. If you're someone who likes to procrastinate, it'd be very difficult to finish a 1-month project in 1 day. So if time management is not your strong suit, you will need to learn it before taking this class.
All right, thank you. And then we'll go to Mr. Kalman for science.
Hi, Mr. Kalman, and I teach AP Biology. I'm one of the AP Bio teachers. We have 5 AP courses for science. They range, and they're all kind of completely different because they're their own field. So AP Bio, AP Chemistry, AP Physics 1, and then AP Physics 2. The last one would be AP Environmental Science. Each course is pretty challenging and rigorous, and it's definitely one of those places that I always highly recommend before a student wants to take any of the sciences to talk to the science teachers, just to give a perspective of how the courses are. For AP Bio, for example, it covers a lot of different chemistry, which a lot of students aren't necessarily used to. If you think of biology, just because they took on-level biology as a freshman, and then they get to AP Bio, and they need some of the chemistry that they did sophomore year. So a lot of the AP sciences are challenging because they combined like the freshman and sophomore year biology and chemistry. So AP Environmental Science does this. AP Chemistry requires a year of chemistry. This is why a lot of the AP sciences are junior year or above. And it's because they require that background information, and it's expected that students come in with it. I know we had a couple students in here that are in AP Bio or AP Chem, and they could probably attest to, oh yeah, I needed to remember this from last year or 2 years ago in order to be successful. Overall, there's a lot of hands-on stuff. There's a lot of labs. It's a lot of fun for any of the classes, but they are a challenge, and I do recommend learning some good study skills ahead of time and practicing it. If you have any questions, you can always find me just as you can with any other of the AP teachers on here on for any of the AP sciences. Same thing as using the Brandon website. Yeah, that's basically
Thank you. All right, thank you. And the teachers are going to be available for Q&A in the chat in just 1 minute, but Luigi is back and I want you guys to hear from him. So Luigi, if you want to turn on your camera and give us a quick little info session about how your experience has been.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So for me, we're going back to what we were talking about. For me, the thing I had to learn from AP classes was time management, because I was in 2 extracurriculars in winter, and now I am 2 now. So I was in marching band and I was in water polo. So I had to juggle between those 2. And then I had to add AP physics to that. I'm a junior, by the way, sorry. Yeah, I'm a junior right now. So yeah, the biggest thing I would tell people is time manage, talk to the teacher. Like I had to retake a few quizzes, but it was fine because he was offering, and I took the opportunity, and it ended up being benefactory to me. So yeah, talk to your teachers, know this. Love the subject. Like the only reason I took AP Physics too is because I love rockets, and I think it's an interesting topic learning about like pendulums. I mean, that can get a bit boring, but I'm kidding. I love pendulums. But yeah, love the topic, love the teacher. Mr. Chittister is really funny. Yeah, have a journal, have something. I use Google, Google Calendar all the time to do homework, and I use Canvas too. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. So there was a question in the chat. So I'm going to stop sharing. Give me 1 second. Okay, Luigi. There was a question in the chat that said, how do students manage all their activities? Like if you're in leadership, if you're doing sports and other activities along with AP classes, do you have any specific skills? I know you said organization through Google Calendar. And
I did it a week at a time. I didn't do it like, oh, I have all these assignments to do the next day. Oh, I have a big quiz coming up. This Monday, I looked at all my assignments for the week and I wrote everything down in my calendar. And on Monday, I found out that we're gonna have a test for physics on Wednesday. So I started planning for that. I'm gonna study today and I studied yesterday. It's just, you have to think ahead a lot. Like you really have to think ahead, because it's gonna end up biting you back if you don't. So yeah, you have to plan ahead. But don't let that discourage you. Don't freak out because you have to do so much at once. Take it at a day at a time, but make sure you hit everything so you don't miss stuff. So you can relax on the breaks.
perfect. Colin, Angela, do you guys have anything that you want to add to that, or?
Yeah. I'd also say, sometimes it does get a little jam-packed with a lot of activities. But I think people are going to also understand. Teachers are very understanding, as well as the people who are in doing your extracurricular activities. Most of the time, if you do time manage well enough, you're able to do it and things won't overlap, but sometimes things come up. And if you just talk to a teacher maybe beforehand and they maybe ask for extension, I'd say all the teachers that I've had are very understanding. If you just have a conversation with them about it and talk to them and tell them what's going on, they're very understanding and they're able to help you out because they want to help you see you succeed. So always just talking to your teachers, but also, if you do time manage well enough, sometimes it won't happen, but it does happen, but it's very manageable. So yeah.
All right. Okay, Angela, do you have anything?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything Luigi and Colin said. One thing more that I would add is when you're having a lot of harder classes as well as extracurriculars, you really kind of have to prioritize. You can't just be giving 100% of your all in everything that you do. Although that's ideal, that's just like realistically, like you can't do that. So depending on what's coming up, like Colin and Luigi said, like planning ahead, seeing what's in front, you kind of have to like obviously put your academics first, but sometimes maybe there's like a really important game that's coming up, then do your work beforehand a couple days. And if there's like a test on the same day, then like also like make sure to study that beforehand. And if you have like a really important retake, so you can't attend like a sports practice, then just like let your coach know and then attend like the retake, because you kind of just have to like see what's more important, and it's like case by case, but just being able to do that. And then also sometimes it's really hard to like drop stuff once you already started it, but like as like I'm a senior now and like I've gone through a lot of different extracurriculars and I've also like stuck with some of them, I realized that like sometimes you kind of just have to like let some stuff go. And like as I said, like prioritizing is really important, so realizing like what's important and what you want to like keep as like a stable thing throughout your high school career, and then what you also might want to let go is like, yeah, I think that's how you like keep your endurance and stamina.
Perfect. I love that. Prioritizing. Yes. Okay, so there's we're open for questions now, and I'll take questions that I see out loud so the panel can answer them for you. One of the questions is, what is the difference between AP Physics 1 and 2?
Okay, I'll take that. AP Physics 1 is basically broken down to things like kinematics, dynamics. It's basically a lot of the different topics that are used in physics, whereas AP Physics 2 goes on to more things like I think electromagnetics, electromagnetics, thermodynamics, and they kind of break down like physics into two like series, so like one course and then a second course, and that's kind of what they do. So there's like Physics 2 has like quantum, atomic, and nuclear physics. AP Physics 1 has like kinematics, I think like momentum, energy, and you need some of that before you do the Physics 2, but so it kind of builds into the other one, but it's a lot of just different topics in physics.
And then you have to take 1 before you take 2.
Yep.
And then one of the questions was about what are the 2 science classes that you can take as a junior and a senior? So Ms. Morella, do you want to go for that one or?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So one of the questions was, can they take multiple science courses in their junior year? The answer is yes. So students have to take physics. They can take either on level physics or AP physics. The students do have that option. But then if they want to take another science course that would be AP, they have to take it concurrently. So then that means that they're doubling up in science in their junior year. So for some students, they have done that. Other students will wait until their senior year to then take that AP. So they have that option.
Thank you. Okay, there's a really good question. It says, do I have to know what I want to major in college before I can choose what APs are for me? So who wants to take that one?
Can I take that one?
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously it's really cool if you know what you want to do, but it's not required in any shape or form. For example, I was actually debating between being an English and a math major. So I took AP Calc and I took AP Lit the same year. And so I really enjoyed that. And it helped me decide, not that I didn't like literature, I love that class, but it allowed me to be like, okay, what do I want to pursue like as a career? There's also the options that you can get rid of prerequisites. For example, AP Stats is a very common prerequisite for almost every major that I know of. And so there are some people I know that are like, you know what, like, I'm not really in the AP Calc scene. I'm not like the strongest math person, but I want to have some confidence going into it. You can either completely eliminate the AP stats from it, or you can go into your first semester of math in college and be like, yeah, I've actually taken this class already. And that could be something that could be really securing for you. And the same thing applies for English.
I'm gonna add on to Turner because for the same thing for science, like especially if you're like, I don't know, I might want to do become a doctor someday, which means you have to do a lot of biology or chemistry. Taking the AP classes gives you a background in it, so you can find out how you like it because it's totally different than the on level, just the amount of depth it goes through. But also, what's really useful is even if you struggled in that class a lot and you still want to continue that like pursuit, you now have a strong foundation when you go to college for those like science classes. For the science teacher, that's like one of the recommendations I have for it because it gives you this strong background walking into college. I know some of my friends were able to take AP sciences when they walked into the college I went to, and they were like slightly ahead of me on a lot of stuff. I'm like, I'm playing catch up, and they're like, oh yeah, we did this in AP Bio. I remember this, and they were just streamlining where I'm like catching up. So it's a very good way to explore possible majors. And you're like, I kind of like this. Let's see if I really like this.
Yeah, I like that explore option because we encourage our students, this is the time to understand what works for you, what will work for you in the future. What do you like? And maybe, you know, they have a really set idea of what they like, but this is one way to explore that and find out if it's really an option for you or not. So more than anything, I feel like if something is of interest to you, yes, go for it. We're almost at the end, but there's this one question I feel like we should speak to one more time, and it says, does the GPA calculated by the AP, is the GPA calculated by the AP class scores or AP exam scores? So I'm gonna let somebody take that.
The GPA is calculated on the class. So the grade that they receive in the class is how the GPA would be calculated. However, there are some courses that we have with AP that a teacher will change or give a grade bump, an actual letter grade bump, if they have a specific score on the exam. And that's going to be very specific based on the course and the teacher. And so what I would recommend is that students can get that information if they attend the lunch informational sessions that will be happening with all of our AP teachers in the month of March.
Perfect. All right, that takes us to 7:30, unless there are any more questions that I have missed and we haven't been able to answer them. We are going to say good evening to everybody. And
one last piece, Ms. Shaw, there's been a couple times that parents have asked if they have to take the exam. At Branham, it is our expectation that if they take the class, they should be taking the exam. Now, if they're struggling, they've been working with the teacher, there have been exceptions where students have not, but it is our expectation that if you're going to take the class, then really you should be taking that exam.
Okay. All right, any last thoughts? Any last questions?
Attendance is very important. No one talked about attendance, but attendance is very important.
Okay, one last thing, Mr. Kalman, somebody said that you were really great in the ELF. So we wanted to give you a shout out for that. And then let's see, a couple more classes on the same questions on the same topic. So does the grade for an AP class damage your overall grade, or can it only bump it up?
It's going to depend on the grade that your student receives. So the one big thing with the AP courses, it has to be an A, B, or a C in order to get the GPA bump. If it is a D, there is no bump. So if your student receives a D or an F in an AP class, it's going to damage their GPA just like an on-level would. So really your students should be thinking about what course do they want to take? Do they enjoy that course? And if they're struggling, making sure that they're reaching out to the teacher so that it doesn't damage their GPA.
Yeah.
Also, just add on, the exam doesn't impact the grade negatively. Yeah. So if you don't do well on the exam, it's not going to impact the course score. But if you do get a D or an F, it will damage your grade.
There's a question here on dual enrollment. Dual enrollment is separate from AP courses. So our dual enrollment program is with West Valley College. So we typically try to bring in dual enrollment courses that we don't offer. Some of the times though, we do have like psychology, things like that, that has been offered, or public speaking. They are the same. So they are a college level class. The difference between our AP classes and a dual enrollment class is that students would take the dual enrollment classes with other students within Campbell's district. And then also it is taught by West Valley professors, not by our Branham teachers. They do get the grade bump just like an AP class gets. The one other benefit that dual enrollment has, that the AP classes, they differ a little bit, but the dual enrollment classes, you can get both high school and college credit. So it doesn't matter the score that you would get on the AP exam, as long as you pass the class for dual enrollment, you would get both college and high school credit.
And then if you take AP classes outside of Branham, it depends on where you're taking the classes from, but usually, I mean, we need more information on that question. Are you transferring in? So you can contact one of us and we can help you with that. All right. A question about AP physics, what level of math skills, Mr. Kalman?
Generally, you need to be in IM3. For AP Physics 1, it needs to be an IM3. There is a little bit of trig, but Mr. Chittister will go through it with you if you were like behind a little bit. Most students are higher than that when they start it, but that doesn't mean you can't be successful in it. Just from my experience of talking to Mr. Chittister. For Physics 2, you need to be in IM3 STEM. IM3 STEM and generally higher, just because there's some trigonometry in it, and that's really where that comes from. They need to have strong like algebra skills, like solving equations and doing stuff like that. But for most part, the teachers will help you out on those math things. And if you're struggling in the math, that's what they're going to help you with it. So as long as you're like on pace for it, they'll be good.
Perfect. All right. We're going to say good night. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, students, for being here tonight. I really, really appreciate that. And parents, attendees, if you have any questions, you know where to find us. We are all around to answer your questions one-on-one as well. The recording and the slideshows will be posted, and I will send you the link to the Google website where we have more information about courses that we offer and course descriptions as well. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care.
Nikita, don't log off yet.
Yep. I'm going to stop recording.
Stop recording.